All right, good evening. We'll begin the Monday, April 12th, 2020 Union County Board of Commissioners regular meeting at 6 o'clock. And as usual, we'll begin our meeting with our invocation, and Commissioner Jerry Simpson, if you'll lead us, please, sir.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. I'll start out, I came across a quote from one of my mentors that I'll share with you, the author John Maxwell. And he said, "The greatest mistake we make is living in constant fear that we will make one." Should you choose to do so, please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, as we come together as a board to once again conduct the business and confront the issues facing our county, we ask your presence among us. We have been blessed to live in a country that, despite mistakes, continues to be a beacon of hope and freedom throughout the world. Grant us as commissioners to realize our imperfections and to use that reality to set aside any fear, humble ourselves, and work together to serve in the best interest of our community, state, and nation. We are thankful for the progress we have achieved in bringing the impacts of COVID-19 under control. Our prayers go out to the many health workers, physicians, and emergency personnel who have given so many hours and have sacrificed in order to serve. We pray for those who have been directly impacted by the disease and the strain it has placed on them and their loved ones. Shelter those who struggle with the indirect impacts, lost jobs, financial struggles, the effect on their mental health. Lord, tonight we offer up a special prayer this evening for the Leslie and the Adams families and the York County community. The Apostle Paul shared that for now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now we know in part, but then we shall know fully. We may never know the reasons behind such tragedies. We can only seek to support and comfort those in their loss. As always, Lord, we ask that you shelter with your love and grace those in law enforcement, fire, emergency, and military personnel who serve to keep us safe. It's in Christ's name I pray. Amen. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll move on to our public hearings. Item 3 is an opportunity for hearing by Professional Property Services Incorporated regarding a request for refund of an overpayment of excise tax paid to the Register of Deeds office. Is anyone present who wishes to comment from and consideration for this request is item 24, Personal Property Services, Inc. Is there anyone representing this firm to speak? Okay, if none, we'll move on. Next item is text amendments. And Lee, you going to help us with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Again, as you referenced, this is public hearing for a series of text amendments that in the planning department we've referred to as 160D. We refer to it as that's the chapter in the North Carolina general statute that it refers to. Just some quick background. The legislature adopted a major overhaul to North Carolina planning and zoning statutes by passing Session Law 2019-111. And part of those provisions sets two deadlines that require most communities in North Carolina to do a couple things. The first one is to amend the existing zoning and development ordinances to bring them into compliance with the 160D legislation. And that has to be done by July 1st, 2021. The second is this doesn't apply to a lot of jurisdictions, but there is a requirement now in the general statute that you have a comprehensive plan. If you want to have zoning, you have to have a comprehensive plan. If you don't have one, or you have one that's seriously out of date, you have to have that adopted by July 1st, 2022 in order to maintain existing zoning and development regulations. We're lucky here in Union County. Union County's always looked forward into what they want to be in the future. So that one really doesn't apply to us. Even though we're going through the process right now of updating that comprehensive plan, we do have one from 2014, and that is new. That is new enough. It's a lot newer than many other jurisdictions out there, but that's a good thing. Some of the impacts, again, about 650 local jurisdictions are going to have to update their local zoning and land use regulations. So most other municipalities and counties in North Carolina are going through the same process. Some of them have done it in the past couple of months. Most of them are kind of on the same track that we are. And then there's around maybe 200 or so municipalities and counties that are going to have to update their comprehensive plan by 2022 in order to keep their ordinances in effect. I broke the changes down. I think you got the sort of the underlines and strike through versions in your agenda packets, and I think it's about 33 pages worth of stuff. So it's a lot. But I broke them down into several different categories to try to keep it brief. The first one is really just references. So that's where our existing ordinance referenced 153A. That's the primary. There's a couple of other references that may have given reference to some other planning and zoning statute or floodplain statute or something like that. Most of those changed from 153A or some other statute reference to 160D. That was really kind of the impetus behind why this was done. The planning and zoning statutes in North Carolina have been around for a very long time. They've been amended many times over the past years, and they're scattered around in different chapters of the general statute. So they really wanted to consolidate those as much as they could into one chapter. So that's what this does. The second category is terminology. Many terms were standardized across in the new statutes. Just a few examples that are on the screen. Any decision that's made by the Board of Adjustment is now standardized as called a quasi-judicial decision. A hearing that's held by the Board of Adjustment is evidentiary. A hearing before this board for a text amendment or a map amendment or rezoning is considered a legislative hearing. And a decision by a staff member is now considered a determination. So they decided to standardize it across the whole state because a lot of communities use some varying terminology that really meant the same thing, but I think it caused some confusion when people would go from different county to county or municipality to municipality. Number three, this is kind of a big one. It's new. It allows development regulation agreements between jurisdictions if there's a parcel that's split, that has a split jurisdiction. So for example, if there's a piece of property out there that maybe half of it is zoned by Union County, one parcel number, half of it's zoned by Union County and half of it's zoned by, say, the town of Wesley Chapel, we could enter into an agreement to decide who has regulatory authority, basically to make it easier for property owners to know what rules apply to them. Permit choice, that's another big one. It has been around in varying forms throughout the years. This is really, they did make some slight changes to it, but in essence, it allows a developer to choose what provisions of an ordinance apply to a project if amendments are proposed. So for example, the recent amendment that we had regarding floodplains, that would allow, if a developer had already submitted an application before those amendments were made, that developer could then choose to continue with the application as it was when he submitted, or could choose to go with the new regulations. This is a practice that's been, it's been varied across North Carolina based on jurisdiction over the years. Some jurisdictions have always really done it this way. This is how Union County's practice has always been, so this really won't be a change for us. It will be for some other jurisdictions. Some other jurisdictions, when that when that amendment was made, they automatically applied it to that project when it was made, regardless of when the application was submitted. Performance guarantees, a couple of, if you look at that text, and if you look at the text on a lot of these, they're very long. Some of them are pretty short. But what I'm trying to do here is break down what a lot of that length and those write-ups actually means. The performance guarantees really didn't change a whole lot for construction guarantees. It does set an initial 1-year duration. It can be longer if the developer agrees to that, and likely the way that would occur would be a conversation between staff and the developer. We've really never had a problem with those being extended out past, right now is 2 years in our ordinance, so we would change it to a year. We've never had an issue with somebody wanting to extend it past 2 years. That makes it easier on staff, really, to keep up with those performance guarantees, especially for a big project that's not going to be done in 2 years anyway. Again, extensions are allowed, and it clarifies the types of securities. For a long time, Union County only allowed cash bonds and letters of credit. This clarifies that we accept cash bonds, letters of credit, and performance bonds. Which we currently accept now anyway. That was a change that was made a few years ago. This just clarifies that. Maintenance guarantees are not allowed anymore. That was a change that was made to the statute several years ago. We didn't modify our ordinance then. We just didn't put it in. We just didn't accept them anymore. This was a good time to go ahead and modify the ordinance to bring it in line with state statute. That maintenance guarantee is almost a gap filler, if you will. A road's a perfect example. A road may be constructed as part of a development. The construction guarantee has to be given back once NCDOT verifies, or whoever's going to maintain that road verifies that it's built to standard. There's usually a little bit of a gap between when that road is finished and when DOT takes it over, because there's a density requirement for a certain number of houses on that road before DOT will take it. So there's a little bit of a gap there. It is an issue, but we're not allowed to accept maintenance guarantees right now. Those changes allow automatic updates to the FEMA flood insurance rate maps. That's what you typically hear too is called flood maps. It used to be that anytime those maps were changed, they had to go through a massive rezoning process, whether the floodplains were increasing or decreasing on someone's property. We've had to do that a couple of times, and it is a big undertaking. This makes it automatic. Once FEMA, or the state of North Carolina, they have an agreement with FEMA. Once the state of North Carolina maps those and they've determined that they're good and they've gone through their vetting process of working with the property owners, then it's automatic. It allows up to a 7-year vesting period for multi-phased developments. So those are typically larger scale, have to be 25 acres. There's some minimum thresholds. And you'll see later there's a lot of definitions that were added, and this is one of them. Larger scale projects, you can vest for up to 7 years. More than likely, these things would be vested anyway if a developer started construction on it and kept going, and it just so happened to take them 7 years. They would probably be vested from a common law standpoint regardless, but this just clarifies that they can automatically get 7 years. It updates a consistency statement language. It requires that the planning board has to advise on consistency statements with adopted plans. Of course, the board does it now. You adopted consistency statements with text and map amendments. The planning board is now going to offer their opinion on consistency with the adopted plan. It clarifies that rezoning conditions must be consented to in writing by the applicant. So whenever a rezoning comes before you, you'll now see in your agenda packet not only the list of conditions, but it'll be a list of conditions with the developer's signature on it saying that they've consented to those conditions. That's something that's required. They have to consent to it anyway now. This just requires a signature. It clarifies that a change in density, and in parentheses there is pretty important, not just an increase, but it could be a decrease in density. An increase in units or a change in the permitted uses is a major amendment to an approved rezoning or special use permit. So any major change automatically has to go back through the process. So if you have any kind of change in density, increase in units, or change in permitted uses, that's an automatic major change, automatic, re-going through the process. It clarifies that divisions of property in accordance with the will, that's exempt from subdivision review. That's something that's done in practice already because it's looked on as it's a judicial action. There's some case law out there that has already dealt with this, so the legislature decided to clarify that and put that in the statute. It allows variances. And that's probably the wrong word. It's not. It doesn't automatically allow a variance. It provides some leeway for the Board of Adjustment to grant a variance for reasonable accommodations under the Federal Fair Housing Act, under the ADA, and some other things. And the best example I can give for that is a handicap ramp. A lot of times, when a house is built, that's not something that's really thought of on the initial construction, and there have been folks, not really in Union County, but I've heard of stories of folks that needed a handicap ramp that couldn't get one because it encroached into maybe a side yard setback. I mean, they had to go and try to get a variance, and variances are hard to get. Some of those findings of fact are pretty tough to meet. We have provisions in our ordinance that have some exclusions already in place for those things. But we tried to think through a lot of situations when we wrote the ordinance, but I'm sure we didn't think of every single one. So this is probably a good thing to allow those accommodations. It updates the conflict of interest standards for all the boards, Board of Commissioners, Adjustment, Planning Board, and staff members that deal with planning and zoning. Basically, if there's any kind of financial interest in a piece of property, can't make a decision on it, even staff. So if I owned a piece of property somewhere that was up for a rezoning, I would have to, or a zoning permit for that matter, I would have to step away, and another staff member would have to make that decision.
What does that change?
It honestly just put that in the general statutes. It was not there before.
So it's still, if we have direct financial interest, that it fits your brother's, cousin's, uncle's, aunt, whoever.
Right. You have to kind of make that decision for yourself. If you can be unbiased, then you'll probably be fine. It updates the notice requirements for hearings and enforcement procedures. The hearing notice requirements, it clarifies that if there's a road between the property, again, example of a rezoning, if there's a road between your property that's being rezoned and another piece, you have to notify that person across the street. It collapses all right-of-ways. It collapses road right-of-ways, railroad right-of-ways, any easements, so you have to notify those people. That's something that is not going to cause any changes for us. We've done that for years anyway. And it also updates definitions to include some of that new terminology, like the major development approvals. And those are all, that kind of is my way of trying to be brief and break down those changes. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
David?
Yes, thank you, Lee. For my benefit, could you perhaps summarize the rules in terms of permit choice for an applicant?
Sure.
The duration and, that sort of thing?
Sure. I may have to refer to my notes. So permit choice, Basically, what I said before, if there's an application that's submitted under rules that are in place today, and then there's rules that are proposed to change after that development permit is submitted, then the developer has the choice. The developer can go in and say, well, I want to continue going down the path of what my application says. I want the old rules to apply. Or they could say, well, these new rules are actually beneficial to me. I want to wait and I want to go by these new rules. And the developer can then at that point place his application on hold and say, I'm going to hold it. Then I think that there's a 6-month time period. So after those rules are approved, then he has to activate that development permit. This is if he chooses to go by the new ones. Once they're approved, he's got 6 months to really say, I'm ready to go. If he doesn't act in 6 months, then it kind of becomes, and he fails to respond to, staff reaching out to him to say, you can move forward now, then it's really, is considered discontinued and the new provisions would apply anyway. And then the permit choice is valid for 18 months after the approval of that initial application. So he's got 18 months to act on that application after it's approved. Is that clear as mud?
No, it's good. So basically, if the applicant pauses the application for over 6 months, they lose the ability to choose the old rule.
Correct.
If they, let's see, what was the 18-month rule again?
So the permit choice, so after the application is approved, it's valid for 18 months. So you've got 18 months to really move on that application. If you don't really do anything, then you really kind of got to go by the new rules.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Lee, I want to thank you for the time that you gave me to go over these.
Yes, sir.
Personally. One of the things we talked about was some concerns you had for the maintenance piece.
Yes, so the maintenance, the
and
maintenance guarantees.
You felt like maybe they might reconsider that because of some of the,
There's been some talk about reconsidering. I mean, it's not in the general statute now. So we can't hold maintenance bonds right now, but I think there has been some talk at the legislature about maybe revisiting that issue, but I haven't heard that recently, but I know a couple years ago that was discussed pretty heavily. Right after that change was made, it was discussed pretty heavily, because I think, a lot of folks realized maybe didn't realize what that meant when it was passed, and kind of now look at it and say, we might want to go back and revisit that.
so it's like new development, and I personally had the situation where the developer had to put up a maintenance bond on the road. They won't have to do that in the future, right?
Right, they haven't had to do it for probably 2 years.
So they hadn't.
Yeah, maybe, probably 2-3 years maybe. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. Yep,
We got burnt.
you did.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
I don't know that that's a good thing.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you, Lee.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Well, we'll open the public hearing on text amendments 160D. No one's signed up, so we'll close that public hearing and move on. Next, we have informal comments, and we have one individual signed up, Roger Melton. So if you'd like to come up now, let me read this. Each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they're a resident of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any, and stating the topic about which they intend to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes and to make their remarks. You cannot yield it to anyone else's time, and you cannot discuss matters of a public hearing. So, Mr. Melton.
I've got some information here for y'all folks. If I could get one of the deputies, someone to take it up to them. Get one of these. Right there. Thank you. This will be the last you hear out of me on this, but Lord brought me here. I had to bring it up. It needs to be addressed. So I'll start off. Gentlemen, commissioners, I'm Roger Melton, lifelong citizen, Union County, and the reason for speaking today, not for any monetary gains, but to bring up a subject that has to be addressed. In 2019, I was attacked by an unknown assailant who turned out to be a Wingate fireman. My family members were on their way to see my dying mother, and there was a terrible car accident in Marshville. And I was called to the scene by my first cousin, Sabra, who was in the passenger seat of the car, the wreck. She told me they were injured badly, and I was a few minutes away, and I arrived on the scene, and I went up to a highway patrol lady named Mallory Gaithers. She said to go ahead, so I went to the family members, asked what I had to do for them, and they said retrieve my possessions and call our family members. I said okay. I got their property, returned it all but Helen Conrad's purse, and she had already been transported, so I kept it with me in my possession. Janice Stallings, the driver, asked me if I would take her phone, go take some pictures of the scene for insurance purposes, and I finished. I went and took some pictures, finished that, and went back to Janice, stayed with her till she was the last one. It was the scene, it had done calmed down, and she was the last to be transported. So I couldn't find Sabra's purse. It's the only one I couldn't find, so I went back to the wreck one more time. I was standing beside the vehicle when I was attacked by a man. He come running up and shouted, "Not today, Jackaroo." He tried to take Janice's phone from me. I had both phones and the purse on my left shoulder. He tried to steal Janice's phone, my phone, Helen's purse, and I just had surgery on my left wrist from there to there, and there wasn't nothing they could do for it. Had a total hip replacement, and I put my left hand behind me instinctively, and this infuriated him, and he reached up and grabbed me by the throat, started choking me, started bull rushing me backwards. But I could not get his grip off my throat. I tried to, but I couldn't. Then others come in and joined him and started pushing me backwards. I did not do one thing inappropriate or illegal. Highway Patrol came up, and I told them that he just come running up and grabbed me by my throat. And they told me, well, I was free to leave. So I started walking off and got to thinking what just happened to me. I didn't do anything. Why did they not say anything to him? Well, after talking to a deputy who was Reese Wilson, I go to church with him, I told him what happened. He said, well, I'd call 911, so I did. And I told the dispatch I was attacked, where and when. I did not know who or why, but please find out. Well, and I'm on the way to CMC with my family, and I'll be down to take out papers on whoever it is when I find out. Well, that afternoon, I found out it was a Wingate firefighter named Ryan Moore, and that I was charged with 2 felonies: failure to stop and taking pictures of a naked woman. I called 911. My call made it to the fire department and my attacker. While I was calling members of our family, going from emergency rooms, intensive care to regular rooms, Union County, a deputy, Ramona Marks, colluded with my attacker, her friend Ryan Moore, and co-workers of the Wingate Fire Department to maliciously and sadistically collude charges, all to cover up what Ryan Moore did. I went to take out papers on him and was arrested. The magistrate would not let me take papers out on him, even though I was the one that called 911. I'm proud to be from Union County. I'm proud to be a citizen. I'm honest. I'm a Christian. I have no reason to lie. I'm a historian, genealogist, an advocate for older people, younger people, coached for years. Any of you need help, I'm there. These charges were a lie. It was an insult to my family. It's fraudulent and put together by the Wingate Fire Department and Union County Sheriff's Department to cover up for him. 9 months, I was told, I'll go all through this. I just have, there's some, I'm not going to get to it because 3 minutes, but I do have some. I asked but never received 911 video from any recordings or devices. Any of this would exonerate me and convict him. They know exactly what he did. Why it's so important to me why is it so important to protect Ryan Moore? Why was there no investigation? can a fireman take your property? The reason I'm here is to address the corruption. No Union County citizen should ever be subjected to this fraudulent persecution. I've had officers and firefighters apologize to me for what they done to me. They know what happened. But we've got to have confidence in our institutions to be honest and forthright without cover-ups and conspiracies. If you lose trust of the citizens, and if they did this to me, they'll do it again. Crime's a crime. It should apply to all. Government employees also. Mike Easley told me, he said, why don't you just forget it? Whatever happened to, if you see a crime, corruption, lawlessness, report it. Speak out. Or was it only for non-personnel? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sorry, Roger Melton. I'm a lifelong resident, Union County. Live on 218, 3327 Highway 218.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda. And I'd like to move that we revise action requested for item 19, solid waste composting grant as follows. Approve budget amendment number 42 to recognize and appropriate $3,000 in revenue and expense into the solid waste department budget, and accept the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Division of Environmental Assistance and Customer Service grant in the amount of $3,000, and delegate authority, signature authority to the county manager. Any other additions, deletions?
Make a motion to approve the
Amended agenda? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All right. Next, we have old business, the short line extension Phase 3 bid award.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Do we first have the tax collector's report? I'm just looking at
For old business?
number 29, information only.
No, that's part of the consent.
Okay, sorry.
Not a problem.
Okay, well, good afternoon, Commissioners, County Manager, and staff. I'm here to give you a quick update on where we stand with the short water line extension program. A lot of this should be familiar to you in the sense that we're going to cover the same things that we've covered in the past, FY20 where that stands, FY21, and what we're going to do in FY22 and beyond as we sort of stand up a new program. So we'll start with FY20. In fact, we just sort of lumped the two together, 20 and 21s. So summary information, we still have 35 project locations. We have a $5 million budget for FY20, a $5 million budget for FY21, and almost 16 miles of pipe that we are putting in the ground. Currently, there are 159 applicants that are going to benefit from the short line program. Potential customer base, once all the lines are installed, is 493 total parcels that will front the water lines. For the FY20 program, we're implementing in 4 phases. Phase 1 is complete. We are in construction in Phase 2. You can see from the slide, Phase 3 is right now in the process of awarding the bid. And in Phase 4, we are in the process of collecting the necessary easements and bidding out the program. 113 applicants in the 2020 program, 8.7 miles. And in a bit of good news, we have a budget of $5 million. We're $1 million under budget at this point to put in all the lines that we need to for the FY20 program. So that's been a fortunate development for us. In the phase, so here's some detail. Phase 2, 25 applicants, 2.7 miles. We're looking at $900,000 in construction cost. Phase 3, we're scheduled to bid. In fact, the bid award, April 12th just went out and notice to proceed, and we hope to have this all done by November 2021. 32 applicants, 2.8 miles, and $735,000 in construction cost. The last phase is Phase 4. It's on the western side of the county. You can see the schedule there. We're currently in the process of collecting the necessary easements, and we'll put the bid package together this month as well. And then we hope to have everything done and completed by December 2021 in terms of the program. 31 applicants, 2.4 miles, and $1.26 million. It's an estimated budget for construction, but that's what we think it'll cost at this point. For FY21, we have 3 phases, and you can see phases A, B, and C, so 4, 10, and 3 locations, and you can see the mileage involved between 2 miles and 2.6 miles. 46 applicants will benefit from the 21 program, 7.2 miles in total. Again, current projection is it's going to cost about $4 million to do the work, and we have a budget of $5 million. And this is the sort of the schedule for the 21 program. You can see phase A, B, and C, sort of where we stand right now. It's April 21, so for phase 1, we're actually in the process of designing what those short water line connections would look like. And so we're about halfway through that phase right now. We're about to start doing the same bit of work in phase 2. So you can see that it's the same program, just staggered with a 2-month gap between each phase. And as we sort of wrap up and as we head into the fiscal year, July 1, 2021, we're really looking to stand up a new program based on all of the input that you all gave last year and approved last year. So we'll have an updated program starting July 1 of this year. We expect to have a 2-month open application period where anyone can submit. We have, based on, again, the work that the Board of County Commissioners did, 6 different criteria that we're going to use to competitively rank all the different applications. Everything from water quality, health hazard, the customers per mile, everything that we've talked about before. We expect to run this program without a backlog. So one of the complaints, I guess if I can call it that, was there was always a backlog and we never seemed to be able to catch up. And so in this case, we will get through as many of the applicants as we can based on the funding that you all provide, and then we'll start again next year. So there won't ever be a backlog in the new program. And so you'll be responsible for obviously allocating the annual budget, sort of setting the cost share, what do we pay versus what does the applicant pay, and then ultimately, determining the ranking criteria. Oh, I meant to change this, unhighlight these programs, but this is sort of the outline for what it looks like. We plan to do some public outreach and advertisement, radio, websites, print, social media. It's many different ways as we can reach Union County residents as we can, and we expect to have sort of that going on starting June 1 of this year. We'll publish the application. We'll have an online form on the website. We'll also have a paper form in customer service for those that wish it, and those will also be available July 1. And we'll start working with the board in May to sort of do all the things that we need to do with you all in terms of the ranking criteria, the cost share, the program funding. So all of that will sort of be set, and we'll be able to tell the applicants sort of what that program looks like, what they'll be responsible for as part of the new short line extension program coming forward. That is the update. If there are any questions.
Commissioner Ray.
Well, thank you for that presentation, and I'm looking forward to the enrollment period. And don't forget about that $1 million left over on them 2 years. We're going to add it to this year's appropriation, not supplant money.
Well, I think you should be looking at
I
the
know.
rest of your fellow
But what-
commissioners, not me. I'll do whatever you tell me to do.
But that just means it was a good bidding process, and it puts us where we can help more people get drinking water in Union County. And that's important to all of us. And thank you for all you do.
With the backlogs that you spoke of, that was an 8-year backlog. And we have to commend our manager, Watson, because he's the one that stepped up and said, we'll do $5 million to get it done in several years. So I agree with Commissioner Rape. I just need one more vote to carry over that, actually $2 million, to ensure we've got enough money to continue this project, because it is getting water to people that need it. when you get ready to apply, one of the main things that we do is to ensure that the people have health and safety issues, that they rise to the top, because a lot of people want county water, but a lot of people really need it. So thank you for what you're doing, and Commissioner Ray. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you want that motion about rolling that money back in, I'll make that motion right now. I mean, it was already budgeted for that program, correct?
That's
So,
the future, I understand that is for our future CIP, so you'll be making that decision
All
for
right.
the future CIP.
I can make it right now. I got 2 votes, I know.
It's up to you guys, however you want to handle it. What?
Yeah, so that's all I figured, the money, you're saying the money's already in the program, and unless we move it out of the program, it stays in the program, which sounds
So
good to me.
it's a done deal
Right.
already, so.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I was just saying that because Stoney's question a while ago, if we don't use it, do y'all spend it? I was gonna make sure it got spent on the right thing.
We appreciate the way you've handled it. I got several phone calls this week about the short line, concerned that we were going to back off, and we're not backing off. So thank you for what you're doing, and we look forward to working with you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Please don't forget that this is an action item. There's actually an item here, number 33, that we need your action on. So it's an update and an
Oh,
action.
yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
motion to accept the low bidder authorized of the authorization of the construction contract to S&L Contracting LLC in the amount of $733,927.47. Authorize the county manager to approve the construction agreement upon legal review and adopt the resolution providing notice of the FY 2020 short line extension Phase 3 construction. And you need to accept the scope of services as well.
Yes.
Set the scope of services for construction, administration, and inspection and testing as shown in the attached task order 2021-03 with W.K. Dixon and Company Incorporated in the amount of $85,200, and authorize the county manager to execute the agreement upon legal review.
Okay, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All against? Okay, thank you, sir. Next, we have item 34, our EMS Quarterly Presentation. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. So we agreed last time when I was here to come quarterly and give you an update on the past events of the quarter that we're closing out, that we just closed out. I don't have a formal presentation, and just give you some numbers and give you a little bit of an idea of what's went on in the last quarter and where we're at and what we've got some plans, what plans we've made for the upcoming quarter as well. So the good news is, as we continue through this process of restaffing and staffing and doing everything we can to continue staffing EMS, we have gotten better at this. We have continually seen our response times drop for 4 months straight. The highest average response time that we seen last year was in, I believe it was November, which was one of our toughest months. It was an average of 8 minutes and 35 seconds. Since then, things that we've done to staff, continually staffed and pushed to get staff, to get more people out there, that time has continually dropped to 8 minutes and 11 seconds. In 1 month, it was actually 8 minutes and 6 seconds. So it's continually dropping. We don't have the month of March in yet, but Stephen was telling me that it does look good for the coming month as well. That's the good part. Another one of the items that we did to staff is we are continuing to do everything we can humanly possibly do to recruit and onboard new employees. Since we met last time, we have been able to hire a total of 2 paramedics and 13 EMTs, and one of those EMTs is in paramedic school already. They're about halfway through. So of those numbers, those 15 people, they have replaced some of the vacancies, but we have since lost a few more since then. So they didn't completely wipe out those numbers. We did have a total gain of, I believe, 9 people since then. That is something that we continue to hope to accomplish by getting out into the community college systems, advertising nationally, advertising locally, and pushing as hard as we possibly can to get these numbers up. That still leaves us with a number of vacancies. We have a total of 18 paramedic vacancies as it stands now with 10 EMTs. We just finished a assessment center this past week. We're looking to hire anywhere from 4 to 6 from that academy, so, or from that assessment, so that's another one. We're continuing to push every single month an assessment to get everything we possibly can at it, so we're squeezing it as hard as we can. We do know that we will continually lose people through normal attrition. We've got some that are going to school. We've got some that will be relocating and moving. That's part of it. But we are doing everything we can to strive to stay above those levels so that we're continually onboarding more than we're losing. Talking to some of my other cohorts across the state, my other counterparts, they're suffering the same things. They're losing more than they're gaining. So we're at least on the positive side where we're gaining more than we're losing right now. Some of your counties that are equal size to us, Johnson County, Qrvs County, those, they're seeing numbers right around the same levels as we are. Gaston County is running at a much, much higher level of vacancies than we are. So we're fortunate in that, that manner as it stands. Now, until we can get these trucks filled, until we can get the seats completely staffed, we've got to do other things in the meantime. What we did this past quarter was we took our salaries, our lapsed salaries that had not been used from vacant positions, converted that over to a critical staffing incentive. We will pay individuals X number of dollars if they'll come and work identified shifts that are vacant above and beyond their regular. That has seen some positive effects. We have seen the staffing go up. Still have shortages, we know that, but we are seeing more and more people continually pick these up. We adjust these staffing levels, these numbers, as we need to identify the shifts that are open, be it night shift, day shift, weekend, whatever the case is. We try to do it on a staggered approach, weekends versus days versus nights. We've seen some positive effect out of that, but what we've seen is there wasn't really a difference in the weekend and the weekdays. So we eliminated the difference in the weekend shift and just went strictly day and night. That has continued to have positive effect. Still not where we want to see it, but we are seeing some positive. Another good piece of news is COVID vacancies. We're seeing less of those, but we still have a number of vacancies from other reasons, maternity, FMLA, workman's comp, as well as non-workman's comp. Tracking that very closely, we closed out 2020 with a total of 25,423 hours lost time due to leave. This year, we're tracking at 7,200 hours so far at the end of this quarter, this first quarter, which puts it slightly ahead of last year. So between the two, you're over 30,000 in 1 year plus 1 quarter, over 30-some-odd thousand lost hours. Any way you look at it, on an ongoing basis, that is the equivalent of 12 and a half full-time equivalents. That's the equivalent of losing 12 and a half full-time people that we can't put on the trucks simply because they're out on leave, or it could be for 2 days, it could be for 2 months, it could be even longer, and we've had those out for much, much longer than that. So even if we're at 100% staff today, what we budgeted for, we still have those that we have to, segment of people that we have to account for. That would be through overtime, part-time, and PRN personnel. Again, we're just pushing to hire as hard as we can. As far as call volume goes, the call volume closing out the end of last year, the last calendar year, was record numbers. December saw record transports. Record transports as well as responses, numbers we've never seen before. This year, beginning January and into February, we continued to see those record transports as well as record responses. We've leveled off somewhat at this point in time, so it's not as bad as it was. So even though you've got a somewhat of a decreased level of staffing, we were seeing more and more calls, and it was wearing on the crews. It's wearing hard on them. It was getting to the point that you can offer anyone any amount of money to work, but it just wasn't worth it. The stress was not worth it on them, and I can completely relate to that, completely understand to that. But at the same time, there are a large number of people who are willing to step up and do what they need to do. When we lose people at nights or in the daytimes, we have to do juggling. We have to do everything we possibly can to fill that truck. So if we lose a person, we may have someone already there who is not assigned to a truck that had a partner call out. You start reworking schedules to get those back on the road. So we're doing everything we can to get the number of trucks on the road that we have to get on the road. We are in the process. We have submitted in our county budget this year 2 things. Number one is a sign-on bonus that will help attract outside individuals. as well as we're looking at a retention bonus. We don't want to lose our best people just because of the amount of money it takes to onboard new employees. We've got some great paramedics and we've got some great EMTs. I would dare say Union County has the best EMS system as far as their people goes, bar none, anywhere in the state. I'm very proud of our team. I don't want to lose what we got. So that's one of the things we proposed in our budget, is to reward them for the work they've done, but at the same time, bring in personnel that are equally as good and equally trained and stand out. Overall, we are aware that we have a ways to go. We know that. It's not something that we can fix overnight, but we're making steps and we're doing everything we possibly can to continually to make these strides, to make positive effects, to watch the times continually go down and continually see the number of trucks staffed each and every day. One of the things that we talked about, we discussed last quarter, was the number of out-of-county units that come in and stand by for Union County. I am very proud of the fact that that number has dropped dramatically, but at the same point in time, the number of standbys that we're being asked to give to other counties has increased dramatically as well. We were looking at that number earlier today, making that report, and I've got to speak with Vicki, and I will do this tonight or tomorrow morning and get up with it. That report is no longer readily available. It's not through anybody's design. I think it's just the way the CAD system is set up. Those numbers are something I'll be more than happy to give anybody who would like to see them. But we do know for a fact our standby numbers have dropped dramatically. We're not doing nearly, we're not asking for nearly as many standbys as we were at one point in time. And I would dare say it's not uncommon to go for many, many days in a row where we're not asking for a standby. But at the same time, it is not uncommon to hear for Qrvs or to hear for Lancaster County or to hear Anson County or even Mecklenburg County requesting us, and sometimes at the same time, to stand by. They'll ask us if we have the availability to give a standby, and depending upon our staffing, if the call volume is low, if we're fully staffed that day, we'd be more than glad to help them out in any way we can. It's one of those case-by-case situations. So understanding and readily admitting that we have steps that we need to take. I'm looking forward to the budget approval this year, hoping that we can incorporate some of these things, as well as some other steps that we've got that we would like to see come into fruition to help the system. Any questions?
Yeah, you were kind enough to meet me for lunch, and we had discussions, and one of the things you committed to me was give me a report on the ambulances staffed by shift. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen that. I don't know if you have, Patrick, or not, but I'd like for Patrick to get that on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
And also, I'll be honest with you, and I received calls where we had 0 ambulances available in the county. That's very concerning, especially when there was only 7 to begin with, and there's supposed to be 11.
So you have to understand, and I ask that I would love to explain this to you one-on-one or in a group, it doesn't really matter. When you say 11 trucks, it's not possible to staff 11 trucks throughout the night because the way the system is designed, you have trucks coming and going throughout the day. When one truck ends, another truck doesn't automatically pick up. You've got a crew, they've got to get off. It takes 30 minutes for them to get off, check the truck off, and get it out. You've got another crew coming in. So you're always going to have ebbs and flow. Now, overall, if you look at the schedule, yes, there may have been 11 trucks on that night, but at that given time, it may have been by design that we only have 6 or 7 or 8 trucks on the road. That's the design of the system. That's day and night. When you have X number of trucks in the day and X number of trucks at night, they're not counterpart. There's no way you can counterpart them just because of the way the logistics work out. So when we say that we have 6 trucks on or 7 trucks on, was that for that specific moment or was that for that whole night? Because that's
Well,
just the design of the system.
I understand the transition,
Mm-hmm.
and I was participated in when we set up your contract initially.
Right.
And it was 11 at night and 14 during the day. What concerns me is when you got 7 and still there's none available.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say about an hour or so later, I heard that one became available, got released from the hospital. That concerns me. So like I said, I'd like for Patrick,
Absolutely.
Patrick, to give that, and then that's part of your next presentation, the next quarterly.
Yes, sir.
But,
Love to.
you know, hearing that we've got no ambulances available at night is very concerning. And, you know,
When you push the staffing as hard as you can to get numbers to where they need to be with the resources you've got to target them towards areas of greatest demand. I understand. It is not uncommon for us to have 15 ambulances on and get down to 0 trucks. That's part of the design, unfortunately. For right or wrong, that's part of it. Now, yes, great, if we had 11 trucks on at that particular time, we would not have been. There's no way possible.
your chances of hitting 0 will be much reduced.
True, very true. I completely agree with you, so.
But,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
My best asset and worst liability is my memory. Have you run any calls in the last 3 months?
Yes, sir, I sure have. I respond in my personal, in my.
You've run the
my
bus,
vehicle. My vehicle, in the response vehicle, not on the ambulance, in the response vehicle.
but you hadn't run a bus in 3 months. The
I can do the
ambulance.
same things out of my truck as I do in an ambulance.
Okay. Because I
It's
know
more
you
than-
and your person that accompanied you last time said y'all would get into an ambulance in a heartbeat if you
Yeah,
had to.
now, I will say that during the days or whenever we're there, we do have a truck staffed, ready to go. It is stocked, it is ready, it is checked, so if the call volume gets down low enough, and it has happened before. Jeff, that was here with me the last time, he has run calls. It's in a series of hierarchy, but you understand by the time we get to the point that we are rolling, there's other trucks already coming available. It's a continuing dynamic system. But we do check a truck off, we do have it standing by, and it is ready to go. But it
Okay.
is, the way the system works, if I am in my desk, if I am working, or if I'm out and about, it is quicker for me to get in my truck and run and respond to call than it is to go find somebody to get on the ambulance. Have to have 2 people to get in an ambulance to go.
But you
There's-
can't transport, can you?
No, well, right now, for a few more days, we can, under state of North Carolina rules change, with 1 EMT and a driver. The driver can consist of anybody. I don't know that that's good patient care, but that was some of the COVID changes that came about. And, you know, and another thing we have to keep in mind is we continually work this schedule all throughout the day, all throughout the night. So when someone calls out, if you got 2 paramedics over here, you'll break those paramedics, put them with this basic, find another basic to work with this one. Then sometimes someone says, well, this person called out, why didn't that person get on the truck? Well, because we already had a person standing by. Or we have someone in the day room waiting because their partner called out. So it's a continually moving target. It's a continually dynamic system. It takes the supervisor everything they can do during the day just to keep up with the supervisor, with the schedule, much less run the calls they have to run, deal with the issues, the personnel issues, or anything else that pops up, answer the phone for hospitals, for scheduling, whatever the case is. So it's a moving target throughout the day.
Okay.
Mr. Edwards, or Mr. Chairman, if I may, how are you, what is the procedure for deploying QRVs when you have these situations where all of the available ambulances are in use?
Just get up and run it. We
So
monitor
they
the
would,
radios.
they would be deployed anywhere at any time if they're available?
Yes, sir.
And are you staffing QRVs in addition to the ambulances, or how does that work?
If we had to, we could, yes. We have not done that on a regular basis. We took 3 of our ancillary support vehicles, had them checked, and transitioned over to act as a QRV if they had to.
And how many do you have in your fleet right now?
Quick response vehicles?
Yeah.
0. We don't, that's not part of our contract. We have them if we need them and we can fall back on them, but that's not part of our regular response.
You just said that it wasn't part of the contract.
No, our contract is not using quick response vehicles. We have them to respond in conjunction with an ambulance if they need to, and to help out, to assist, but that's not part of our regular deployment.
Okay. Second question, I believe the last time you came and presented, there was some mention as to a salary study or compensation study. What's the status of that?
So Atrium last month, it took effect this past pay period, increased everyone's pay throughout Atrium because of the minimum wage. When they brought that up, it caused a trickle effect where everybody else's came up as well. It affected everybody in our system. Some of our employees saw 20 cents on the hour. Some of them seen as much as several dollars on the hour go up. So that is part of that. Now, as far as the pay study, that's still ongoing. That's not something that's completed yet.
So
Now,
the pay ranges for Atrium have changed,
for everybody.
but you haven't adjusted the market rates for paramedics at this point.
No, but I did submit in the budget for that to accomplish that process. So once they come back and say.
And your basis for that request is what?
Based on other similar organizations, similar size, similar response models pay level.
But has the pay study been completed?
It has not.
Okay, thank you.
We had a conference call, discussed that on, I believe, Thursday of last week. So that's still in progress. I would like for it to be finished just to see where we're at and start making some communications and make some plans, but at this point in time, it has not been. Any other questions?
Other than the report on the ambulances, the assist that you provide and the assist you receive on a daily basis, please, sir?
Okay. And again, to put it out again, like we did, and I think you and I discussed during our lunch that day, is I would love to have each and every one of you at some point in time stop by, see how we were to look, dig into it, and see what makes EMS. And the other thing I'd like to say is the last week, I believe it's the last week in May, is National EMS Week again this year. I invite each and every one of you to a stop by at some point in time, just to show appreciation to the ones that are really in the forefront dealing with what they have to deal with. They have to deal with it each and every day, so it's an open invitation.
Thank you, sir.
While we're sitting here, I thought of another question, if I might.
Okay, of
I'm
course.
sorry, I don't mean to drag this out, but you mentioned a minute ago that, is it the general statutes are changing that are allowing someone else to be a driver while a EMT paramedic is in the back delivering care?
So in North Carolina, EMS operates under general code. There was a rules change, a temporary rules change, or I should say a relaxation of those rules in the case of extreme emergencies due to COVID-related incidences or other instances of need that would allow an ambulance to respond with one person on it and transport if needed. That was announced a few weeks ago that was going away. That was.
Oh, it's going away, so you've been
Yes.
operating like that, but, or?
We had
okay,
the
so how many,
ability.
do you know how many times over this past 12 months that we've had, for instance, I would imagine it would be someone like a volunteer firefighter or someone from one of the fire departments driving while a paramedic was administering care?
We have not.
You
We
have not?
done that. Just simply because, it goes back to what I was talking about a moment ago. When someone calls out, we continually work the schedule, keep pushing it and keep working it until we can get a dual crew out. It just provides much better care.
Thank you.
One more question. How many working ambulances do you have available to you
And the fleet,
in the fleet?
it changes from day to day. We have a stock of 20 ambulances.
Well, one's in for an oil change.
Yeah.
Count that one.
On average, about 18 a day.
Okay.
I was commenting earlier when I came over here, how many trucks we had sitting in the parking lot, and we have a very well-staffed day-to-day. So, but we have a fleet of 20 ambulances per
Okay.
contract. That's what we can maintain. We've got one that is out long-term because of an accident, trying to figure that one out. We've got another one out that's due to an engine, probable turbo, being out. And beyond that, we still have the oil changes. We average 2 weeks on oil change. That's all we can get out of it. So we've got oil changes, we've got the suspension problems, and a myriad of other issues that are just part of the program.
Well, we need to get the state to relax the DEF fuel requirement because it's creating havoc with
Nightmare.
those diesels.
That's a federal EPA regulation, and, well, to address that, what we are doing is, once the warranty is out on these trucks, we're having these trucks adjusted, so that's not as big of an issue as it once was. It's not illegal, it's very legal to do. Doesn't create any problems with the truck, and it is increasing our reliability on those trucks, so. But yes, I completely agree with you, it is a nightmare.
I've spoken with our senator concerning that to see if he could help us get that relaxed because some other departments, like fire departments, they're exempt from it.
So we are averaging, this is just one of those anecdotal things for discussion. The way we operate through dynamic deployment, we average between 1 and 3 miles of drive time for every hour an engine runs. Many years ago, a diesel engine loved to run. You crank it up in the mornings and it would run all day. Those are not the situations before, and the DEF fluid that's on those trucks is killing those engines, it's killing the turbos. They just don't, they don't operate like they used to. The emissions controls, everything that they put on them it's killing those engines. We have went through, in the past year, I would dare say 5 or 6 turbos. And to add on top of everything else, not only are we having to replace the turbos, you can't get the turbos. They're on national backorder. So that complicates the process.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you, sir.
thank you.
We'll look forward to hearing from you in the future. Next item 35, is clarification of appointments to Juvenile Crime Prevention Council and appointment of juvenile defense attorney representative and director of social service or designee. During the meeting on April 13, 2020, the board reappointed Officer Monica Holt to serve on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. It was stated in the agenda abstract that Officer Holt served as a juvenile defense attorney. However, Officer Holt serves as a police officer representative on that council. During its meeting on March 15, 2021, Tiffany Wilson was appointed to serve on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. This position to which Ms. Wilson was appointed is an unexpired term for the member of the business community. However, the agenda abstract indicated that her appointment was for the juvenile defense attorney. The term of Anna Goodman, who serves as the juvenile defense attorney, has expired. It is our understanding that Ms. Goodman has specialized qualifications that need to be served in this position as juvenile defense attorney. She has applied for reappointment. Frida Coley served in the designated slot for the Social Services Director or designee, but has retired. Monica Smith is an employee of Social Services and qualifies to fill this position as submitted her application. For the purpose of this agenda item, clarify the appointments of Monica Holt from July 13, 2020 to serve as police officer or representative, and 2, clarify the appointment of Tiffany Wilson from March 15, 2021 as a member of the business community for unexpired term. Item 3, reappoint Anna Goodman as the juvenile defense attorney. And item 4, appoint Monica Smith to serve as the Social Services Director or designee with the retirement of Frida Coley. Please. Okay. Well, that's kind of, no, that's the background. Action requested is. Just told me to shut up, didn't he? Clarify the action of the Board of Commissioners on July 13, 2020, appointing Monica Holt as police officer representative on JCPC. Clarify action on the Board of Commissioners on March 15, 2021, appointing Tiffany Wilson to serve an unexpired term as a member of the business community on JCPC. Reappoint Anna Goodman to serve as a juvenile defense attorney representative and appoint Monica Smith to fill the position of Social Services Director Designee with the retirement of Frida Cole. We have that as a motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Next, we have the appointment of Board of Adjustments and appointments to the Planning Board. The Board of Adjustment, the term of Mark Tilley expires April 19, 2021. The position has been advertised. Mr. Tilley has applied for reappointment. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Tilley? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. The Planning Board, the terms of Patrick Harrison, Charles Griffin, and Louis Philippi will expire on April 19th. The vacancies have been advertised. Mr. Harrison, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Philippi have reapplied. In addition, we have received the application from Dan Wooten. I'd make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Harrison, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Philippi. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
And I completely found that motion. I would say Dan Wooten was a very fine gentleman.
Oh, no doubt.
Including encourage him to reapply again, but with these reappointments.
They've all demonstrated their capabilities already, so,
But I definitely encourage Mr. Wooten to reapply.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Have three items for the board this evening. The first topic is Cane Creek Park. Of course, the purpose of our parks is to provide a place for folks to come and enjoy themselves, enjoy the resources that have been provided, and to be safe while enjoying those resources. Y'all are all aware of an incident that occurred at Cane Creek Park Saturday before last. Staff is very aware of it, and we have been meeting, discussing that, and discussing how we should respond as an organization going forward to incidences like that. At your next meeting on April the 19th, you'll be receiving a report from Parks and Recreation Director Jim Chaffin regarding recommendations from staff related to incidences such as the one that happened Saturday before last. Number two, to let you know that today the first pipe has been laid in the Yadkin Regional Water Project. Last Friday, Commissioner Simpson and I had the privilege of traveling up to Norwood and visiting with the folks that will actually be laying the pipe and doing the work, and talking with them about how they'll be going about that. It was very interesting. There's been a lot of activity in the town of Norwood along the edge of the lake where the intake house will be, and along the pipeline by several of our contracting vendors. So that pipe is going in the ground today, and there'll be a lot of activity pursuing in the next few weeks. And lastly, Union County, I read a report, it's been about 2 months ago, that Union County is recognized as one of the most benevolent and charitable counties in the state of North Carolina. And every day our community exhibits these traits where we are as neighbor helping neighbor, as I like to call it. And just to call to your attention that during the month of March and so far in the month of April, community members from several organizations, including Union County government, have assisted in the distribution of 5,500, I'll call them meal boxes. These are boxes that full of fresh foods that are being distributed in some of the underserved areas of our county. And that food distribution will continue for the next 3 Tuesdays, including tomorrow. The food distributions have been taking place at Elizabeth Missionary Baptist Church parking lot. And again, there have been a number of agencies around the county that have been participating in that, and we appreciate all that they have done. We appreciate the hard work of our staff going out and assisting in that. And I'll tell you firsthand, having seen it and talked with some of the recipients, they really appreciate what's being done for them. So with that, I thank you and say have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Rushing.
Oh, no comments. Been here long enough.
Commissioner Simpson.
No comments.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand at the next meeting, we may have an opportunity to have some discussion about Senate Bill 349 and House Bill 401, which are a couple bills that address what would be sweeping zoning changes throughout the state of North Carolina. You know, I'm not going to speak about it too much today, but I've talked to a number of citizens, and while I think the goals of affordable housing and property rights are laudable, I think there are some very concerning elements to these bills that I very much think we need to have a robust discussion over. So I look forward to talking about that at the next meeting, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Williams.
Well, everybody knows that I usually try to say something positive because there's not enough positivity in the world, and I think everybody in this organization does a great job. I wanted to slide over here and look Michelle in the eye. The disengagement that you pulled off with our Cardinal, I was told that was just one of the greatest things that ever happened, and I know you were the first one to disengage. I would say you amaze me, but you've got me where I expected, so. But everybody does a great job. Michelle, you are something else, so thank you for your dedication to the organization.
All right, and I agree with his comments on you, Michelle. I get raving reviews every time I turn around. Commissioner Williams, myself, and the manager had the opportunity to go down and visit our animal shelter. A couple of months ago, a young lady came back and expressed concerns about the shelter and how animals were treated in Union County. I have to tell you that the Sheriff's Department had an immaculate facility and their processes. I was very impressed. I think this county is very fortunate to have an organization such as that. We met with the heads of the shelter, the sheriff, so I was extremely impressed and pleased, and I'm the beneficiary of a boxer that I got there, and that's the same thing I experienced when I got the dog 2 years ago. I really appreciate what they do, and deputies, thank you very much for y'all's support. We always appreciate your being here and supporting us. So, and with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Could you raise your hand faster, Stoney?